All right, you guys are live in the unders.
I'd like to call the Oglesby City Council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Here.
Finley.
Here.
McDermott.
Here.
Stefani.
Here.
Kern.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, number 4, public comment on agenda items only. Seeing that there are none. Number 5, approve minutes from the August 2nd, 2024 meeting. If there's no additions, corrections, or modifications, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Finley.
Aye.
McDermott.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Kern.
Aye. Number 6, approve bills presented for payment in the amount of $724,219.22. If there's no additions, corrections, or modifications, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion. One thing though, I have something to offer here. The reason that the bills are elevated this period is there was a payment on the wastewater treatment plant stuff, and there was a payment on the Malik stuff. And then obviously the IMEA and all that goes along with it. So that's why they're elevated. If nobody has any questions, I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Finley.
Aye.
McDermott.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Kern.
Number 7, approve payroll for August 16th, 2024 in the amount of $104,762.45. If there's no additions, corrections, or modifications, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the payroll.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Finley.
Aye.
McDermott.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Kern.
Number 8, discuss ordinance for travel expenses by elected officials. Baldridge.
So this was supposed to be put on record back in 2016. It's an ordinance that the state requires us to have to keep track of any travel expenses, meals, lodging, and allows the constituents to also know beforehand when we ask for approval from the council so that they can understand what the money will be going for. I'm asking to update this and pass it through after Pat gets it crafted and put something on file here like it was supposed to be back in 16.
So the interesting thing is it actually already was placed on file. It just, there was an error that was done. What I would recommend, I know granted it's been 5 years since it's been placed on file, but legally it is on file and we're supposed to have it. What I would recommend doing is that we pass it just because it was an administrative error back in, what year was it? 2016. So I do think that there's some things that need to be updated on here. Like, for example, it talks about prior authorization is the only thing required is for air trip tickets in exceeding $500. I'm not sure what round trip air tickets were in 2016, but you know, I bought just an economy one to Houston last week to be down there, and it was $580. So, you know, I don't know if the numbers need. I mean, I think every night that we spend at the IML conference, I think isn't that we find that the rooms are $320 a night or something like that, which is over the limit already here. So I think they need to be updated a little bit. I don't know about the prior authorization thing. I guess I'd be curious what that exactly means when it says prior authorization. Is that for the council, or is that just for the commissioner to probably approve for his people going on travel? I'm thinking.
You know, I don't know, Jason. I really need to look at that ordinance. I think it's probably in the Dropbox, Becky, but.
It should have been right there for you too,
Well, you
Pat.
did. Thank you. I have been looking to see a copy of this. I saw the one that was adopted by Spring Valley. I think Jim did both of them at exactly the same time. So I think they're probably fairly similar, but I don't remember them talking about prior authorization.
Well, just so the public knows, they're not thinking that we didn't have this. I mean, I think the city for since 2016 has been under the impression that it was approved and that's what everybody was operating under. So even though it wasn't technically approved, so my recommendation would be, why don't we finish that action from 2016?
I definitely recommend that. 'cause
Approve it.
You're in violation for not having adopted.
And then if we want to look at whatever the things that probably need to be modified or updated to get an updated one, I think is easy peasy.
So this says the city shall only reimburse employees for travel, meal, and lodging expenses not exceeding these amounts. Where do you see
It does go somewhere else where it says,
that?
if it exceeds
Prior
per,
authorization. If it exceeds that, you might have to get prior authorization.
I did a search for prior authorization. There's only one place. that
What
says
kind of
it.
changes are you wanting, Rich?
You wouldn't be able to, no reimbursement shall be authorized unless it
Unless a form
submitted and approved.
has been submitted and approved.
Yeah.
Right. But it doesn't say anything about prior authorization. That could come after the fact, Rich. I don't see anything about prior authorization.
Right
I
here.
do think the form is a good idea. We use these at the IMEA,
The reference is prior authorization for round trip air
Yeah.
tickets.
exceeding those amounts. Yeah,
Yeah.
only if they exceed those amounts.
Yeah.
So I think the caps are fine, and I think you guys should have some say, and if somebody's gonna run airfare on the city over $500 myself, but I don't know what you think. I mean, this would allow them to go out and get an air ticket for less than $500 and just come to you and ask for approval later. And maybe they do that at their own risk, I don't know,
I
but
don't even know the last time we've had to fly for the city. The only time I've had to fly was for the IMEA conference and
Right.
and
And
they
they
compensated for that. So I don't know. I know that Mayor Scott had multiple flights down to Florida and Texas when they were trying to bring in economic development for wire mesh. But other than that, I'm not familiar the last time the city had to fly for anything.
So what is the best practice here? Maybe that's what we should be looking at.
well, personally, I think the best practice would be to give prior approval for all the expenditures that you're gonna be expected to pick up the dime on.
I had
Whether it's
said,
under 500 or over 500, but, and we're only talking about travel, meals, lodging, here, not other expenses that may come up in your commissioner duties, but just these types of
Mhm.
activities.
I had said prior that if it's an example like Rich has to send one of the folks in the electrical department for specialized training or something, he becomes a check and balance where it's up to him to approve it for that person. They're not approving their own expense. But when it comes to an expense that Rich or Mac, anybody up here would incur for themselves personally, that we should approve it. I think that's just the best practice in my head, and I'm open-minded about it if somebody could tell me that we should do it differently than that. I mean, for your employees, yeah, that's one thing, but
I'll give you an example of where I think it could, I only say could be a problem because again, I don't know any references. So for example, when somebody had to fly, and granted, this is back in the 90s, 2000s for all I know about, when they had to fly to Florida to go do stuff for economic development. I know, I'll even give credit to Mr. Finley over there. I know a lot of work and effort went into play for getting GTI. I know how much work and effort it took, all the electric and everything we had to do to negotiate the expansion and stuff like that. And I'm sure that paled in comparison to the challenges of getting them in the door. And I do know that before the public was well aware, there's many conversations that happened. I don't know if there was ever travel expenses included with that. Probably not, because they probably came here. But I'll give you another example. I've reached out to 18 different grocery chains to see if I can get them to come here. It's not been good. Either I get no answer or I get an answer where they say, oh, it's positive, we'll look into that. Or they come back and they say, we've looked at your marketing material and I don't think we're ready. But what happens if I get a call the next day and they say, you know what, we'd really like to look at it a little more. We have a private equity investor coming. We'd like you to present to our board. Can you be here next week? Or something like that. Is that something I wouldn't want to get prior authorization for that? I would just go.
I would hope that before next week, you would probably have all your ducks in a row and have somebody else doing work with you. And this would be something that would be, I can't be there next week. Let me have all my ducks in a row so I put my best foot forward.
I get it. My point is there are things that would happen that and I think Mr. Finley would agree with me on this. There might be things that are happening behind the scenes that you don't want the public to necessarily know about yet because you might have to sign an NDA or something. That's the only exception. And again, I can't think of anything like that happening for the last 20 years, but it could happen.
Yeah, I actually had to travel to St. Louis But I did it on my dime, spent the night at the hotel because we had to meet at 7 o'clock in the morning with the grocery store chain. But I mean, I didn't charge the city anything. I did it on my dime to make the travel and all that. But I mean, it's just, it can happen though. It can pop up, you know, where they call you and
Suddenly,
when they call you saying, hey, can you come down tomorrow? Or, you know, can you be here? And all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I'll be down there, you know, and you go. But, you know, it's just, and it is stuff that's tough because you can't really tell anybody because word spreads very easily in Oglesby. So,
You don't say. Huh?
yeah, so I mean, it does. Sometimes it does pop up once in a while.
I think we should leave the prior authorization at the idea for the employees. I mean, we're commissioned form of government, so commissioners have up to $20,000 that they can spend in their departments to authorize on things. I think
On their employees, not on
Yeah,
I
themselves.
believe
Not
you're skirting
themselves.
the
Nah,
intent of
it's-
the Expense Control Act. I believe that if in fact an
There's-
emergency arises, I believe they state that in there that you can do that and then it comes to the council within 60 days to approval.
There's a municipality currently in the news all
Yeah.
the time to the east of us that they've had this problem where the mayor over there's been taking trips and then all of a sudden, well, here's the bill. The money's already been spent. The expenses already been incurred. And now they're on the hook for it.
My
So,
recommendation-
and it's not, I'm not saying the mayor specifically like you, I'm just saying all of us, it just looks like a good practice where, okay, if there's something there, hey, you know, I have this building codes related conference coming up and I'd like to go and I'd like to take the building inspector or the zoning administrator with me. If I'm going, I'd like for you guys to say, okay, yeah, you know what, we're on board with this, you know, go ahead, especially.
Bringing it up front and letting
Yeah,
everybody know.
and I'm not talking about a couple $100. I'm talking
Right.
about those kinds of things are usually in the thousands. So I'm just trying to be responsible. That's my position.
I kind of think
I
if
think
it's in
that's
your,
all I have to say.
I think if it's in your area of responsibility and you're abusing it, you get called on the carpet. You know,
Yeah, it's too
I
late
mean,
at that point.
yeah, but the
What's
money might
done
have been
is
spent
done.
though, but then you try to prevent it from happening again or something like that. I don't, again, I don't know of any abuse of that's happened in the last, 20 years or whatever. So is it an issue? I'm just saying my piece. I think it could potentially harm something.
So we can approve this, and then if they wanted to go the other route, if there's a feeling at the table that we wanted to have prior expense, that could be something that's also done after the fact, right?
I suggest we allow Pat to interpret this.
Well, this clearly says that, the city of Oglesby will only reimburse for the following maximum expenses. And they will only do that after a request reimbursement form has been filled out by the person and submitted. If you want to exceed these maximum expenses, then you have to come to the council for specific approval. This follows the statute, in my opinion, because it sets a limit. And that limit can be exceeded, but only with council approval. In reality, the council is approving these limits for possible expenditures coming down the line.
And what are the actual limits again, Pat? Just so we know that we're in line.
$500 for travel by motor vehicle. It'll be reimbursed by the IRS mileage reimbursement allowance. For air travel not to exceed $500. Anything
Mhm.
above that has to have prior authorization. For lodging, $300 a day, and parking $60 a day. And for meals, a per diem of $75 a day.
Yeah, I think we already exceed that with the driving thing because we pay when they go to these courses for a couple weeks, we pay them a per diem thing and their travel for their personal vehicles. So those costs can get up, they're kind of high. I mean, it's necessary though. So I don't know. My thoughts are,
If you're exceeding these numbers, I think it should be done ahead of time. If you're not exceeding these numbers, I think you could submit a request reimbursement form once you adopt this, and it could be authorized by the council. But the council looks at every one of those bills. I mean, they have the ability to. Go ahead, Beck.
My only question is you talk about reimbursement, but all of our department heads now have credit cards, as does the mayor and I. And so that wouldn't actually be a reimbursement because we would already be charging it to the city.
It's already
So
expensed.
how
Yeah.
should that be handled?
Well, if it's on the city credit card, there's no reimbursement involved. And this talks about reimbursement. It does not talk about paying the city's bills. So I think that's a different scenario.
Just sets the
Okay.
limits.
I believe the intent of this law here is to show transparency. You put that on a credit card and slip it through the bills, there's no transparency. Public doesn't get to understand what happened, how their money was spent. I think we need to tighten it up.
Well, why don't we approve it so we're got it on the books
I agree.
tonight, and then,
If you want to make changes, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
That's my recommendation to you. This should.
I'd like to make a motion to pass the ordinance for travel expenses with the knowledge that we will be looking to place this on file right now and also update it at the next meeting.
did anybody else have something they wanted to add to that before we go for a second? Okay, I guess,
I'll second that motion.
roll call, please.
Let's get her done.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Man,
Mac.
Matt, okay. Baldridge.
Aye.
Finley,
Aye.
McDermott,
Aye.
Stefani,
Aye.
Kern.
Number 9, disciplinary policy. Stefanelli.
All right, so this was something that came out of an employee matter a while back, and as we went through the process, and I took you all through it, so you're all familiar with this, there was nothing in place to give any guidance of how any of this stuff should be done. So one part of it is the actual disciplinary part, which my intent here is that I hope we never have to use this thing, truly. But at least from a professional standpoint, it tells you exactly what process you have to go through so that on the management side, they're doing things the right way. The employee has all their due process rights, and they, like even the union employees, they have a right to have representation in the room with them at all times and all that. So that kind of lays all that out. And the other part of it was the behavior and conduct part. So that kind of outlines, what proper behavior, conduct, dress code, that kind of thing. So, I mean, this is something we talked about before. It came back. I think the only thing, Pat, was,
There were 3 things, I think, Tony, when I looked at it.
yeah,
Yeah, one of them's already kind of taken care of, though, I think. But yeah, they were all in the behavior part of it. There were
Okay.
no recommended outstanding issues from your labor council with personnel complaints and disciplinary procedures.
mm-hmm,
But the conduct and behavior policy, he had 3 areas of concern. One of them that he suggested I might discuss, which was elected officials and employees are prohibited from using resources to benefit any political activity, and they are also prohibited from engaging in political activity off-duty while wearing uniforms. And I thought there was another statement in here about them, elected officials shall not engage in election, about them talking about something, Tony, wasn't it?
it was the employees, the one that you're referring to there, that that could be a violation of their First Amendment rights. But if it's something confidential in nature about city business,
That's it.
they are acting in
having
service of the
trouble-
employer. So,
I'm
that-
having trouble locating the
Right.
confidential nature language, but that's,
Yeah,
to
that's
me, what saves the situation.
okay,
If it's of a confidential nature, I don't think your employees have any right to talk about it
okay.
and use free speech to protect themselves. So I don't have any problem with that. Tony.
The one about political activity, his comment there was that the city should have adopted an ordinance on prohibited political activity, and he'd simply include a reference to that ordinance here. Now, I don't know that we have an ordinance for it, but if that's something that he's saying we should have an ordinance for, I think that's you, Pat, right? That,
It could be.
So-
I think if it's in your policy, you kind of get to the same place myself.
okay.
If he recommends we have an ordinance, I can certainly look at crafting.
Well,
So before we start going too far here, should that be one of my motions? Because I got a feeling there will be several motions on this matter, and I'm happy to make them, but should that be one of them
Yes,
to instruct you to draft an ordinance?
yes.
Okay.
Prohibiting political activity,
All
right?
right, so I'll make a note of that before we get too far.
so that was one of my concerns from a while ago, that line there that talks about the engaging in political activity while off duty. He doesn't say there's a problem with it, but what he says it should be adopted in an ordinance and just referenced here instead. So he didn't really give any recommendation on the language of that. I have a concern about that. I don't want to ever tell anybody what they can or can't say. Any kind of free speech stuff. And he does make a reference to the free speech thing down there with with their First Amendment rights about what they can and can't say.
That was what we just
That's,
talked about.
that's really hinges on the confidential nature
Yeah.
of the communication though, Jason. And
Yeah.
I think
Right.
as long as it's couched in terms of confidential information, I don't have a problem with it. Just to prohibit it without that, I would have a big problem with it, honestly.
So do we want to send this to you to see if we can clean up the other areas that he made the recommendations
I
for?
don't think they need to be cleaned up, Jason.
He
I think
did the
only
initial
thing
cleanup
I've
before it
taken
went to the
out of
labor
this
attorney.
Is that we need to maybe adopt another ordinance prohibiting political activity.
So do we want?
And
to
then
do
when
that?
he,
Go ahead.
That would be separate.
when he, his other comment here was number 2 was on, the city is to have a sexual harassment discrimination policy and complaint process. In addition, annual training is required. Well, now I've just provided you with that whole complaint process and the secondary, the other part of this. And as far as the training goes, we just completed that a couple months back, which
You have to do
naturally,
it every year.
naturally
Yeah.
people, why do I have to do this? I never had to do this before, but if this puts us in compliance now and we ever get in a jam, guess what? We're doing the right thing. So
Well, what
that
put you-
takes care of that.
Yeah, what put you in compliance is taking that training every year.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
have to take it every year,
Yeah,
all
do
of your employees.
The gift ban, there's already an ordinance for, and I can provide you the numbers. I kind of scribbled them down before tonight, so we'd have them. And then the other thing was the employees talking about items of a confidential nature. So if somebody comes in from a grocery store, walks down to see the mayor, and then they go and start talking about it, you sign a non-disclosure agreement, that could be problematic. That's a confidential matter.
The other thing he commented about, Tony, was defining work hours. On the
Mhm.
very last page.
Oh, for
Um,
city officials.
Not using drugs or alcohol of any kind during work hours. He thinks maybe we need to define work hours. I mean, work hours are variable. You
Yeah.
have an emergency and some poor electrical department employees called out to attend to it at 3 a.m. I mean, to me, he's on the clock. That's a work hour. I'm not worried about splitting hairs over defining that term because I think it would get too hard to do.
Do you think we could say when acting in service of the city of Oglesby in his or her official capacity? Because then that would cover all of it, whatever time
I
it
think
is.
that would be fine.
Okay? Unless you guys want to keep going, I'm ready to make motions if we.
What do you want to make a motion for?
Well, the first motion I'm going to make is to instruct the attorney to draft an ordinance for prohibiting political activity in the workplace.
Absolutely.
I mean, as per what the attorney said, to have that in there, because, yeah, I won't be voting for it if it says that line that he has highlighted there. But if we have a specific other ordinance that it's okay, and it just makes a reference to it, then that's kind of following what the labor attorney kind of recommended then.
So I'm going to make a motion once again to instruct our attorney to draft an ordinance prohibiting political activity in the workplace.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion on that?
It was seconded.
Roll call.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Finley.
Aye.
McDermott.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Kern.
Now you second.
Okay. Next, do you guys have any more you want to go over, or am I good to keep going here?
No, I think just as long as we follow the recommendations, we're good.
Oh, this is it. This was written first and Pat reviewed it first. The labor attorney reviewed it second. So this is your final format. I make a motion to approve the behavior and conduct policy and the disciplinary and complaints policy.
I'll second that motion.
Is there more? Hold on. Is there more discussion on that yet? Because
I just asked you that.
those items weren't removed yet.
What items? There's nothing to be removed.
The item right here, the city should have adopted an ordinance on prohibited political, and I'd simply include a reference to that ordinance here. There is no reference to that because the ordinance hasn't been created. Right now, it says.
Well, I'm not going to hold up this policy on that. We just in order instructed our attorney to draft the ordinance for it.
But you're going to leave that language in there?
Yeah, I'm going to leave it in there. I'm not going to come back and do this
He
over again.
says I'd simply include a
Nah,
reference.
It was motion.
There's a motion and
seconded.
there's a second on the
Okay,
floor. We're
is there
not
any
playing
discussion?
games here.
Well, that's not how it works. Everybody gets an opportunity to, anybody else have anything else they'd like to say on that?
On the question, anybody? No?
If not, then
There you
okay, there's
go.
a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Finley.
Aye.
McDermott.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Kern.
No. Okay. Number 10, ordinance number 1264-081924, short-term rentals, Stefanelli.
Okay, so I think this is like the fourth time that we've put this on the agenda and that we've read this. So some changes were made to the language to remove some ambiguity. An example is that the host may provide coffee in closed container items to somebody that's staying there. but not any prepared foods. Our fees are slightly higher than our neighboring communities, but that's simply because we have closer proximity to the state park. No matter where a person may travel to, the closer you are to the place that you want to see, the more you're going to pay. So I think from a business standpoint, we can demand that. And I think the host is the one in the end who actually does all right on the deal. I've spoken with city officials from LaSalle on how it's going with them, and I had a great meeting with them, great discussion, and they like some of the ideas I had, and I learned a few things from them. So as this progresses, I look forward to working with them too, so that all of us have something nice here. So other than that, that's all I got for you guys.
Yeah, so we had a conversation on some of the things to get updated. I really appreciate the two individuals that came last meeting to give some feedback that really did help. Mr. Stefanelli did clean up quite a bit of language in there, and we did get it on file before today, before the weekend even. So I think it's a good thing. Keep in mind, I know there might be some residents out there that have some concerns about it, but I'm telling you, I think we really did a good job looking at to make sure everybody's covered. There shouldn't be any kind of issues with any surprises showing up or somebody that's upset about. And everybody will get an opportunity if they have a concern to talk about a short-term rental. But like he said, this is going to open up more opportunities. And I mean, we're trying to be this wonderful outdoor adventure center where people want to come to us because of Starved Rock. So it just opens up more opportunities. So do we have anything else to say on it?
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance with all the revisions that were made.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Finley.
Aye.
McDermott.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Kern.
Aye. My number here doesn't have the number for the ordinances. I'm going to guess it's 1265 and 1266. Is that correct?
1265 is city clerk.
So 64.
64 is, see, I have 64 is short-term rentals.
Pat and I's numbers don't agree.
Yeah.
It's,
Where's the numbers at?
oh, you're right. You're right.
Is it
65
65 or
was the
66?
one I had for the
65?
city clerk, Jason. But Becky maybe gave it to
Let
short-term
me see what it
rental.
says.
Do we want to combine all three of them?
Well, let's,
Or do you need to take them one by one?
You gotta do them.
no, you need to take them one by
That's what I
one.
thought.
I'll change
So-
the numbers.
Yeah.
What
So,
numbers do you
Becky,
want me to
what do you wanna
assign to
use
them?
The
for
ones that
clerk?
Pat has on there.
Well, 64 is what I have for your ordinance, Becky, and that was probably my mistake, because that should be 65.
We just approved that one, so we're gonna have to swap them.
Yeah.
So the chief is 67. That's what I got.
We have 65 and 66. Anybody take those?
65 for the clerk,
65 for the clerk.
the ambulance service.
67 for the police.
All right. Number 11, ordinance number 1265-081924, set salary and benefits for the city clerk. Stefanelli.
All right, so these next few items are setting the salary for our appointed folks. We've talked about this over the last few meetings here, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time trying to hear myself. So unless you have any questions.
Yeah, this was what was talked about at our last meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance for the city clerk, set salary and benefits.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Finley.
Aye.
McDermott.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Kern.
Aye. Number 12, ordinance number 1266-081924, set salary and benefits for ambulance director. Finley.
Yeah, once again, this was talked about at our last meeting. Looks like Pat drew it up as we talked about. So at this time, I make a motion to pass ordinance number 1266081924.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Finley.
Aye.
McDermott.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Kern.
Aye. Number 13, ordinance number 1267-081924, set salary and benefits for the police chief. Finley.
Yeah, this was talked about even before I took the spot, so you guys talked about it. I mean, everything looks good, so I'll make a motion to pass ordinance number 1267-081924.
And I'll
Second.
second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Finley.
Aye.
McDermott.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Kern.
Aye. And again, the only reason for the delay for those items was just because we wanted to get all of our appointed officials taken care of at the same time. So number 14, intergovernmental agreement with LaSalle County for city share of Dry Bridge project. McDermott.
All right, guys, the county agrees to pay 80% of the construction cost. That total being $235,200. Okay? It's
That's
cut and
the-
dried.
Yeah, that's the city share.
Yeah,
So,
that's cities.
Under this agreement, the city is going to be responsible for providing evidence of council support, passing an ordinance or resolution to appropriate the funds necessary to pay for their responsibilities under this contract. Is that in our appropriation ordinance, Beck? Do we have a number in there for this already?
It's a
Do we think?
resolution.
The only thing that wasn't included was the
The
engineering
construction
costs
costs.
that,
So.
there was a question about.
As long as we have enough fluff in there to cover engineering costs, which I'm sure we do in the appropriation ordinance, I don't see that as being an issue. The city's anticipated share of the construction portion of the cost is $168,000, and the engineering is $67,200, which brings you to max number of $235,200. So I want you guys to understand, you got to come up with $235,200.
So
20%.
I will say, I'm very happy with the county on this. This conversation was almost 5 years ago. And at the time, they agreed to pay $400,000 of the estimated $500,000 cost. And of course, this was pre-COVID and everything was kind of crazy and costs went up. So I'm very happy that they still agreed to pay the percentage
amount.
based on it. So that's very kind of them. Are we just placing this on file tonight and then get it in full resolution format or something like that? Because I see
Well,
I
resolution
need
here.
it approved. I believe.
Yeah, I think Mac does need it approved
I
for
need
this
it
project
approved.
to go forward.
So guys, as long as you understand, the amount we pay is $235,200, okay? The county's gonna pay 80%. All right, this is our cost is $235,200. All right,
You technically should put it on file because it's an agreement
thought.
for expenditure of funds.
Now there is a way I think you can make, if I remember right, if there's like an emergency reason, you can make a special vote where you have to have a
You
supermajority,
can,
which would just be 4 out of 5 anyways.
correct.
So is it something that you need tonight approved? Because if that's the case,
if it's my understanding that we need this approved tonight.
Do you know, Jim?
okay, well then I think that's good enough reason.
That's the
So
emergency.
if
Yeah,
you want to,
there you go.
if anybody has any questions, concern, talk about it, but if you want to even make some kind of statement that we're approving it in emergency or whatever.
Okay,
And Mac, I don't mean to interrupt you.
You're
but My
fine.
last comment about this is, you understand the city's going to be responsible for this bridge when it's done, just like you have been
Mhm.
responsible for it up till now. It'll be your responsibility to maintain this bridge moving forward.
They could have told us no, so.
Yeah, they could have, and you'd have still been responsible.
Exactly.
okay, do you want me to say emergency purpose or not?
Yeah, I think that would be
Okay.
good, man.
Due to an emergency purpose, I'd like to pass the intergovernmental agreement with LaSalle County for the city's share of the Drive Bridge. The cost to the city would be $235,200. Can I get a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Baldridge.
Aye.
Finley.
Aye.
McDermott.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Kern.
Easy peasy. Number 15, public comment over any topic. Seeing that there are none. Number 16, new business. I have nothing listed. Number 17, old business. I have nothing listed. Number 18, commissioner reports. Commissioner Stefanelli.
All right, thank you. Last week, we received our incentive payment for the cost to install the electrical vehicle charging stations in our downtown. So I'd like to thank Commissioner Baldridge and the guys in the electrical department staff for all their hard work in doing that and getting that done. And hopefully, we'll see some electric cars using it and get some more traffic in the town here. I'd like to thank the clerk and her staff for all the planning and their hard work and putting on the car show this past weekend. Clerk's office will be sending out a friendly letter reminding our property owners that parking of semi-trucks in the business district is not allowed by our zoning. Overall intent there is to keep our business district looking good and inviting. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Finley.
I have nothing at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McDermott.
I have nothing at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Baldridge.
We met with the engineers on July 24th at the Dickinson House to discuss and determine a plan for an ADA restroom. Happy to announce that after some modifications and planning with John Sales and Service, costs have come in at a much more considerable rate. We look forward to helping the foundation complete a very long-awaited project. EV charging stations, like Commissioner Stefanelli said, have been placed and installed over at our city lot across the street. A grant from our electrical provider, IMEA, paid most of the cost for us. Our electrical superintendent and crew then put in a lot of work to make this happen at a very low cost to Oglesby. These units put Oglesby on the EV map now, and I appreciate all that our electric department has done by installing the chargers themselves to keep the cost minimal to us taxpayers. SURF has completed providing service to Seneca Square. They'll need to do a little bit more construction in order to get the other two installed at Lehigh Park and at the pool. SURF Internet significantly enhances the experience and management of parks in various ways, such as visitor information, educational resources, reservation and ticketing, community engagement, feedback and improvement, marketing and research, data collection and analysis, safety and alerts. Overall, having the internet available can serve as a powerful tool to improve the functionality, accessibility, and enjoyment of parks for both visitors and management. Another pool season has come to an end. I'd like to thank all the workers and volunteers, and also Laura Hodgson for directing and offering the Aqua Zumba classes. She did some morning and some night classes. She believes that next year nights would be best. She stated, what I would like to share with you and the board is that every person I came in contact with that works for the city of Oglesby was extremely helpful, knowledgeable, and went out of their way to make me feel comfortable and welcome. I'd like to share that we are grateful for Laura providing this service and look forward to her return next year. Thank you, Laura, and everyone who participated. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor's report. First thing is, I've had some people ask me about, I guess other cities are being announced that they're having their petition packets available. It seemed very odd to me because it's so early. I talked with the clerk. There were some changes to the laws, and so petition packets are earlier. They're about a month earlier is required to be turned in, and about 2 months earlier to pick up. So starting tomorrow morning, the available commissioner petition packet will be available for pickup for anybody that's interested. Number two, I'd like to thank the LaSalle County Cruisers and We Are Oglesby for helping put on such a great event for the car show. Their efforts were fantastic for making it a third great annual event that we've had. I'd also like to thank Laura and Carl from East End and Hot Rods. They've been the ones that have kind of been donating the use of golf carts for the various events. So when you see people zipping around, make our events new, a little more efficient and stuff like that. Big thank you to them. Number three, the next big city-sponsored event is Boots and Brews. Boots, Brews, and Barbecue on September 14th. But the big one I wanted to just talk about is number 4, Harvest Fest on October 19th. I know that's a little bit of ways from right now, but the scramble will be back. I've gotten some details from the clerk on it, and it sounds exciting. I know it was a huge, huge event the last time we had it. So please, people, mark your calendars, October 19th. Put a placeholder on that. I think you will not be disappointed. That is all I have. There is an item that came up today for closed session. So I'd like a motion to go into closed session for the operation by a municipality of a municipal utility or the operation of a municipal power agency when the discussion involves contracts relating to the purchase, sale, or delivery of electricity or natural gas, or results or conclusions of board forecasted study 5 ILCS 120/2C23. Can I get a motion and a second, please?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
I'll second it. How's that?
Roll call, please.
Let's get her done.
Aldridge.
Aye.
Finley.
Aye.
McDermott.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Kern.
And there is no planned actions after closed session. Thank you, everybody.